What's up YouTube, I'm Mike, and today I'm back with a new video. I'm shooting in a different location today. I know this lighting here is probably far from ideal, but this video is definitely not going to be safe for work or for children. So if you have anybody with sensitive ears in the room, you're going to want to get them out now, because what we're going to be talking about today is dgame. This has been a major topic on my channel. Also, it's probably very echoey in here. I'm sorry, there's nothing I can do about that. My kids are home and I've been trying to get this content up. So I'm holed up in the bathroom. I am cutting. In my viewfinder, it looks like my abs actually look good in here. I'll give you a little physique update before we get started from this different angle. So recently I've been talking a lot on my channel about my broke dgame. I'm very, very happy to report that today my dgame, well, for the last week or so, I guess about, my dgame has been fully functional again. Which is very suspicious because I have never had dgame problems in my life the way I had when I got onto the mint. And the consensus amongst more than one person seemed to be that the cause of my busted dgame was that I had very high estrogen and low prolactin. These are conditions that I've had more than one time during my bodybuilding career and never caused my dgame to break to the severity that it did. It was so broken for so long that I had become concerned that I had permanently neutered myself or done something like maybe the triple 19 NOR combination broke something in me. I'm very happy to report that it appears that I am not permanently broken. But while talking to my wife last night, I started thinking, you know, when I come on my channel and I talk about dgame and how mine is broke, or I talk about, man, my dgame is really dialed in, that's kind of a relative thing. What one person might consider fully functional dgame could be very different than what somebody else considers fully functional. So what's actually easier for me to do and fun, because I just want to do it, is to explain to you what I consider to be the state where my dgame is dialed in perfectly. It's easier for me to explain what perfectly dialed in dgame is, and then basically anything other than that is some variation of broke dgame. So basically here's the way it goes. Again, this is not going to be safe for work or minor ears, or maybe even your wife, depending on how sensitive she is. So my objective with steroids has always been to build as much muscle as I could, but to also have the best quality of life that I can have. And one of the quality of life factors that I'm always looking for is phenomenal sexual performance. What I expect, we'll let you guys be the judge of this. I think that what I expect from my body in a sexual performance perspective is not natural. In the same way that I want to have an unnatural level of muscularity and leanness, I believe that for a almost 44-year-old man, that what I expect my body to be able to do in the sexual realm is probably unrealistic. But this is what I have been able to consistently achieve with steroids. And so this is the bar that I have set. This is what I consider to be normal. So at 44 years old, I'm going to be there in 18 days, 17 days. So we're going to go with 44. At 44 years old, what I expect my body to be able to do is to become fully erect for no other stimulation than purely thinking about sex with my wife. So I want the ability to become fully erect without her having to touch me, do anything to me at all. I expect to be able to gain a functional erection just by thinking about getting into the act or starting the act. Basically, I want to have erections on command. I don't want there to be any necessary foreplay, really of any kind, in order for me to perform sexually. So that's number one. I think that's abnormal, especially 9 years into a committed relationship with one woman. I think that it's probably, oh, well, we'll get to that down the road. So I expect to have on-demand erections, and keep in mind that all of these expectations are coming in an environment where I have sex at least one time per day. So if you have sex less, then a lot of these metrics are very easy to achieve. If you're one of these poor bastards that only gets it 2-3 times a week, God forbid 3 or 4 times a month, obviously you're going to be extremely pent up, and so getting up and ready for the act is not going to be a difficult thing for you to do. When you have orgasms every single day or multiple times a day for extended periods of time on end, this tends to mute your sex drive quite considerably. And that's what I do not want to happen. So I want to be able to have sex every single day, orgasm every single day, and have it not mute my sex drive or my sexual performance at all. So I want to have on-demand erections, and I want to have erections that last as long as is necessary. So to give you an example, if you're following me on any of our OF pages, then you've already seen actual recordings of these acts. Right, my wife and I go through a lot of different iterations in the bedroom. That's how we like to keep things, constantly fluid and spicy. If you're sleeping with one person every single day for 9 consecutive years, you have to do things to keep spice in the relationship, or you're going to get bored. It's not going to be sexually satisfying. So we have a variety of. It's kind of like in the gym. You might train high reps, low weight for a while, then you might run pyramid for a while, you change your diet up, you're constantly keeping your body guessing. The same thing happens in the bedroom. So currently, our sexual program looks basically like this. We start off by watching porn together. We are currently watching tune porn only, no real people. Primarily because the tune porn is substantially better. The actors are all better looking, they can perform feats and stunts that human bodies can't, and you don't have the hang up of, which really affects my wife more than me, but now that I have a daughter, it does affect me, where you're looking at some young girl and you're like, she has a dad. And that's unfortunate. And so if you just go to tunes, then you don't have to worry about anybody being trafficked. You take all of the human beings out of it. And in the state of Texas, it's not blocked, which makes it even easier to get access to. So high quality 3D tune porn is what we use to get into the act, to transition away from raising kids into our adult behavior. While we're watching this content, I'm usually sitting on my back in the bed with the laptop on my knees, and she's laid across me with her head in my lap. And she uses her Hitachi wand to masturbate to the porn that we're watching, on average 15 to 30 minutes, depending on how sensitive she is. So 15 to 30 minutes is usually the minimum amount of Hitachi wand activity that she gets while watching tune porn. And during this process, she is usually manually stimulating me and using a little bit of light oral stimulation, not like BJ type of stimulation, but more just like licking around the surface of my penis, because that's what we're talking about today. So this gets my juices really good and flowing, and so I need to be able to maintain an erection for the entire period of time that she is stimulating me in this way. Usually she plays with herself for about 10 minutes before she starts interacting with me, just because we've kind of got it dialed in that there is a cutoff to how long you can really maintain an erection, or at least I can. So usually she plays by herself for about 10 minutes until she starts getting good and worked up, and then she starts manipulating me manually and a little bit of oral while we continue watching the tunes. And so I need to be able to maintain an erection under these conditions for anywhere between 10 and 20 minutes. Usually at about the 30-minute mark, she will transition into stage 2 of her masturbation routine. This is sort of like fighting a boss in a video game. If you'll know, in a lot like in Elden Ring, for example, bosses usually have 2 phases. Phase 1 is sort of tamer, it's a little bit easier to get through, and then phase 2, that's when we really pull out all the weaponry and go to work. So in phase 2 of her masturbation marathon, she will then turn over on her stomach and use the rose vibrator on her clitoris while she fingers herself like from behind. So she's laying face down on my lap with one hand underneath with the vibrator and the other hand over the back, playing with her fingers. Now this can take easily another 20 minutes. Usually it's as long as needed for her to have an orgasm. So the objective is that she have a good, strong orgasm before we get to sex. I prefer this because of the fact that I abuse steroids. So because my cycles are constantly in flux, sometimes I have the capacity to want to go for a really long time and you know, make sure she has a second orgasm. But for my own enjoyment of the act, I like to know she's going to get her needs, her physical needs met, guaranteed before I even get in the game. It takes a lot of pressure off me. Then I can just kind of have fun enjoying her body, and sex for us becomes less object-oriented, which is something that we've learned over an extended period of time. I have what she likes to refer to as a fix-it problem. Anytime she has emotions or feelings or needs, I want to rush to fix it. And so if we get into a sex act and she hasn't orgasmed yet, I become very object-oriented and my sole focus becomes on trying to make her come, and that can be less intimate. She wants to be able to have the physical stimulation and the intimacy. And so if we use a prolonged, so however much time it takes, on average, the phases 1 and 2 of our masturbation routine last for 45 minutes. So during phase 1, again, we've got the Hitachi wand and physical manual stimulation. In phase 2, when she's rolled over on her stomach and she's using both hands to manipulate her parts, this is when she is now engaged in actual, very slow and methodical oral sex on me. So again, I need to be able to maintain a firm erection during this entire period of time, which is on average 15 to 20 minutes. So on average, I would say she spends about 30 minutes in phase 1 and 15 to 20 minutes in phase 2, however long it takes until she has an orgasm. The total, what we call foreplay, this phase, these two phases are basically the foreplay of our sex. This lasts on average anywhere between 45 minutes and an hour and 15 minutes, depending upon how pent up she is, how much fun she's having, how much we're enjoying the porn together. 45 minutes to an hour and 15 minutes, of which 90% of that I need to not only be able to stay erect, but stay in complete and total control of my orgasmic response. Because I never, ever, ever want to have an orgasm before we transition into actual intercourse. So in order for me to consider my D game dialed in, I need to be able to get erect on command, stay erect as long as she is stimulating me or stimulating herself for a period of up to an hour and 15 minutes without orgasm. After she comes from masturbation, then we transition into sex. Sex usually occurs in multiple phases. When she's on steroids, she prefers very, very deep penetration. When she's not on steroids, for some reason, her G-spot actually moves and she enjoys very shallow penetration. This is one of the reasons why in our current phase of our current sexual meta phase that we're in, we're employing a tremendous amount, a long amount of masturbation prior to the act. Because when she's in the mode for deep penetration, that seriously limits my ability to control my orgasmic response. If she's enjoying shallow penetration, I can basically do that indefinitely. We can easily have sex for 45 minutes and we can basically take the foreplay out. So sometimes what we'll do is we'll start foreplay with just basically a short 5 to 10 minute 69 type of event just to get her wet. Then when she's wet, then we would transition into sex and we would have sex for a longer period of time, maybe 30 minutes in multiple positions, trying to achieve at least 2 orgasms. So that's one iteration of our sex life, and that's usually what's taking place when she's not on primo, for example. On primo, where her G-spot moves much deeper and she prefers deeper penetration, then we need to front load the sex part of it with a lot of masturbation, because I can only take hard, deep, vigorous penetration for 10, maybe 15 minutes before I start to really have hard time controlling myself. So one of the things that we'll do is we'll either start deep and then go to a lot of cuddling and kissing and intimacy, or usually my favorite is to transition from our masturbation routine into the face-to-face, missionary, close, cuddling, kissing type of sex, because that's what's most likely to arouse her for a second time and allow for a second orgasm. The overwhelming majority of the time, I would say upwards of 85%, she has 2 orgasms during this entire event. So she will masturbate to 1 orgasm, and then she will almost always orgasm again when I finish. And so, but the length of the time that we're physically having penetrative sex will greatly depend on whether or not she's able to get substantially aroused a second time after having her masturbation-induced orgasm. So, usually if I want to go for a while, if I'm still sufficiently pent up after 45 minutes of hand jobs and BJs, then I will do everything I can to try to kickstart her out of her refractory period and get her desirous of a second orgasm. And that's when sex can take an additional 20 plus minutes for a total act of somewhere in the neighborhood of an hour and 35 to an hour and 40 minutes. More often than not, and recently, especially when I'm on trend, my cardiovascular performance is not good. So if we do the masturbation routine for 45 minutes to an hour and 15 minutes, sex can literally be as short as 5 to 10 minutes. It just depends on whether or not she's able to get into it for a second time. Generally speaking, independent of length of duration, the second act results in another physical orgasm. For some reason I can't say the S word without getting dinged. There's a beverage named after it. Starts with an S. It's a type of orgasm that a woman can have. So usually we get 2 of those per day, which is why we go through very expensive sheet bed liners. Usually 2 of those every 6 months, because they only survive so long. So when I tell you that my D game is dialed in, it means that I can go through 45 minutes of foreplay, maintain an erection the entire time, and then go through sex where I have reasonable control of my orgasmic response. Ideally, I want to have perfect control. So generally what happens, and what's happening now, is she will basically determine how long sex is going to last. If she's enjoying sex, then there's a handful of things she won't do. For example, like talk dirty, squeeze her Kegel muscles, get into certain positions. If she wants to prolong the actual intercourse phase, then she will usually keep her legs wide, use a toy, and will keep things in a certain type of dynamic where I can have basically on-command control of my orgasm response, to the point that she can basically tell me, okay, I'm ready for you to finish, and within 30 seconds I can finish. This is what I call dialed in D game. Anything less than that level of control, sexual stamina, sexual endurance, erection quality, anything less than that, I consider to be broke D game. Now there's broke D game, which for example could be a variety of things. I wasn't able to maintain an erection, a solid erection for the entire period of time. Maybe it was kind of like come and go. That's okay. It's not ideal for it to come and go, but as long as it functions throughout the act, that suffices. But I would still consider that broken. If I cannot, so on mint, so that's dialed in. So when my D game was catastrophically broken, that's a situation where I cannot gain or maintain an erection long enough to even facilitate an act. There was a total of at least 30, 40 days where I was completely incapable of completing an act without some kind of disaster. So that's catastrophically broke D game. Generally what I have is either dialed in D game or D game that is just kind of not ideal. So either I don't have perfect orgasm control, or it's hard for me to orgasm, or I can't maintain 100% solid erections, or I have like kind of, you know, in between where I'm totally hard and then I get soft and then kind of get hard again. Those are all acceptable, reasonable human conditions that are perfectly tolerable. They're just not what I consider to be dialed in. So when a lot of people are asking, hey Mike, why do you take, you know, Cialis and Masteron and Proviron and all of these different compounds? The reason that I take a lot of these compounds is because various different compounds are things that help to facilitate dialed in dgame. I want porno dick. I want the ability to stay as hard as long as I need to be, to have perfect control of my orgasm response, and to be able to become erect on command without any form of stimulation. That is dialed in dgame. So a lot of people, I think, misconstrue when I start complaining about having broke dgame. They're like, oh my God, this guy can't get it up. Dude, broke dgame could still be well orders of magnitude better sexual performance than most men will ever have in life. I'm not looking for normal sexual performance. I want enhanced supra-physiological sexual performance. I don't care about my age. I don't care about all of the blood sugar. That's a major contributing factor to problems. A lot of my broke dgame recently, I found out, has come from the fact that I was struggling to manage my blood sugar. I'm also very happy to report that my blood sugar for the last 2 days has not had any crashes at all. And the only change that I made is I stopped listening to other fucking people tell me that high fructose corn syrup is bad for me. I went back to drinking 2 liters of Dr. Thunder per day. Blood sugar crashes are gone. Gone. I stopped fucking with the K-Rose syrup and the dextrose and all these things that I've been making videos about recently. There was a bunch of videos that I made coming up with all these different ways trying to solve my blood sugar problems, because I was trying to focus on hydration and vitamins and minerals and all this horse shit. I basically just quit the game giving a fuck about drinking water or electrolyte mixes, sports drinks, all of the stuff with the vitamins and minerals and electrolytes and dextrose sugar in it. I went back to just good old-fashioned high fructose corn syrup in the form of Dr. Thunder, and my blood sugar is completely stable again. So this just goes to show you, like the great Lewis Black says, what's good for this guy will kill his neighbor. My body functions very well on things that most people cannot tolerate, and I've got to learn to stop listening to other people tell me about my diet. I'm going to make an entire video about the absolute idiocy of the keto diet, especially as it pertains to bodybuilding. I can't believe somebody even had the nerve to mention this to me in the context of trying to be as big and muscular as humanly possible. Possibly one of the dumbest things I've ever heard. What I'm finding out is that a good friend of mine who's a doctor and continues to be a good friend, I'm having some struggles right now with some of the advice that I'm getting from him. And I think the primary reason for that is nothing against him. It's just that we come at life from two totally different perspectives. Doctors have a problem in dealing with bodybuilders because doctors are constantly approaching life from a prophylactic standpoint. What kind of drugs can I take to prevent cardio remapping, to prevent diabetes, to prevent atherosclerosis, to prevent disease? And I come at life from, I'm going to do whatever I can do to be as big as humanly possible, and if I get atherosclerosis, then I'll figure it out. If I become diabetic, then I'll take insulin. My attitude is, F the consequences. I'll worry about fixing the problem after I have it, rather than jumping through all these hurdles trying to make sure I don't develop any problems. You know, like another piece of advice he gave me was to continue to take telmisartan when the dose I was taking was causing me to have blood pressure readings of 100/65. I'm not taking telmisartan to prevent cardio remapping. I don't give two flying F's about cardio remapping. I was only taking the telmisartan because I had high blood pressure. See, there it is again. I take steroids. If I get high blood pressure, then I take telmisartan. I don't take telmisartan when I start taking steroids in hopes of not having high blood pressure. That's not the way I operate. That's the way doctors operate. So I've got to remember that even though there are some really intelligent, amazing people with medical degrees in the bodybuilding community, they are always going to come at life from a different perspective than I do. I am not Leo's longevity, who ended up not having very good longevity. I don't give a shit about longevity. I give a shit about having dialed in D-game at all costs. I give a shit about having a great physique year-round at all costs. If a cost appears that I'm not willing to pay, then I will either take the necessary medicines to try to rectify that cost, or I will take myself out of the game. That's the way it's going to be. So there you have it. I just wanted to clarify some of these things, and I just wanted to talk about my sex life because I'm in that state of mind with the trend flowing fresh in the veins that I have had an insatiable level of libido lately. And so this made for a good excuse to talk about it on camera, especially in my new uncensored kind of way. So this video is going to land. I'm going to try to get it approved. It's not violating any of the rules. So hopefully it will be approved for the masses, but we'll just have to wait and see. So there you have it. As always, thank you for watching. If this is the kind of content that you want to see in an even more unedited fashion, please join the members group for $5 or $25. The $25 section is what's going to get the most raw and unhinged videos. I may at some point decide to allow, like maybe a month after release, the stuff that you see at the $25 level might filter down to the $5 level. Maybe. I haven't decided yet. The $25 level also gets you access to Source Talk on Discord. It gets you access to some of the uncensored, not safe for work content on Discord. Obviously, there's still the OF pages all over the place. You guys can find the links. You can hit me up in person for them. And there you have it. If you do join the Discord and you cannot see the threads, it's because I have to approve you. So please DM me your YouTube name so I can verify who you are and give you privileges. If you're not accessing Discord from the same account that you access YouTube, it will not automatically approve you. So if that's happened to you, please reach out to me in DMs and I'll get it fixed immediately. As always, thank you for watching. We'll see you on the next one.